Welcome to the Lifestyle Architects Show,
featuring interviews with inspiring and successful lifestyle entrepreneurs and helping you to design your life, build your online business, and live your dream now.
There is no better time than the present to make a change that will bring you true happiness and make your dreams a reality.
Changing his life and helping you change yours.
It's your host, Navid Muasses.
Hey, what's up everybody? I'm Navid Muasses and welcome to another episode of the Lifestyle Architects. Today I'm joined by AJ Amix. He's the creator's mentor, host of Amix TV, and the founder of Passionpreneur Academy. And now he's also positioning himself as a Twitter expert, and he has a new course coming out on all of this as well. So I'm really excited to have you on, AJ. So welcome to the show.
Dude, I appreciate you having me, dude. Like, I am so freaking stoked just to rock it out with you this morning.
I mean, definitely. I mean, I've been following what you're doing for a while, and I follow Nick Unsworth, obviously, from Life on Fire, and I saw you were working on, like, a Twitter course, and I thought it would be really timely to bring you on to talk more about how you can use kind of Twitter to attract more free customers, position yourself as an expert there, and find, like, I mean, get more leads and all this good stuff we want for our brand and business. So we are going to get into a lot of good stuff in this interview. So actually I'm going to I know you have a lot for us today, but I'm going to put together kind of an action guide for anyone tuning into this interview. So you can head over actually to the show notes page over at navid.me/29, and grab this guide for free. And maybe we'll get into some good stuff later as well. So first of all, tell us about yourself, your story, and also how you got into this thing with Twitter you're working on now.
Yeah, dude. So I'm just like a farm boy who grew up in East Texas on a little bitty farm. We had like 48 acres, and my grandparents and my family were all kind of like, we didn't live together in the same house, but on this land we had all of our different houses. And so we grew up there raising chickens, and we had cows, and we had like this big garden. And if we fast forward many years, I went into high school and I started playing music. I found this old acoustic guitar in the garage little shed we had behind the house, and I didn't know, but it was my dad's. But he never learned how to play it when he was in high school, so I just picked it up and I taught myself how to play guitar. And then I just started playing with a few buddies of mine, and we fast forward past high school into college. We started taking it seriously, and we co-founded a band called Trade Cities. And then by 2009, we had been offered 2 record deals. We had been traveling throughout the Midwest on this big 38-foot tour bus. So we kind of did the whole rock star thing for the Christian rock and roll genre. Fast forward from October of 2009, then we all decided, hey, this isn't a good fit. We're all going different directions in life. Some of us are getting married. Just had different visions. And I had to come and ask this question of like, well, what in the hell do I really want to do with my life? Like, why? What do I want to do? And so my passion was really like marketing and business. And I found this out like in 2006 in college. I picked up Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that was the first like nonfiction book I've ever read in my entire life. Besides like in school when you had to read like, don't use heroin or some book like that, Yeah. But like, as far as business and marketing, that was like the first like nonfiction self-help book. I didn't even know that genre existed. And like, dude, it just lit me on fire. And ever since that day, I just started reading as much personal development and like business development and marketing that I could get my hands on. And so I liked marketing. And I remember as the band, I was like the guy that like made everything happen. Like, I wasn't like, I'm not a great guitar player. I'm just like this ridiculously charismatic guy who's a really good performer, and then who just really grinds it out and hustles when it comes to like business and reading books and like just going and finding the solution. Like, how do we get our music out there? How do we write the flyers the correct way? How do we design? And so I kind of translated that over into the online space. And I think it was in 2008 or so, I picked up a book called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. Yeah. Totally changed my life because like he was talking about this idea of lifestyle design, what you talk about, being lifestyle architects and so forth. And I was like, why didn't they teach me this in university? Could they not have like a course that's like lifestyle design or something awesome? And so ever since then, I was like, hey, if Tim can do this, I can do this. And so ever since then, we fast forward from 2009 and to present day, And that brings us to helping authors and speakers and coaches trying to figure out how do we launch and monetize a business in 90 days or less online. And Twitter has been like this really powerful tool for organic traffic.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I can resonate with your story a bit. Not like being this in a rock band or whatever, but I was actually reading a lot of say, personal development books before I even got into becoming interested in starting my own business and developing my personal brand. So like I read books like Think and Grow Rich and all this kind of good stuff, and like that kind of takes us where like you want to take action, and it seems like you are this action taker and you want to like you had this drive inside of you. So if you fast forward now, you're like positioning yourself now as a Twitter expert. How did you get into that?
You know, it's kind of funny how like God, universe, source, whatever word you want to use, like just kind of like guides you. Like this, like business evolves. You know, like for me to think in 2009, I'm going to be that Twitter guy. Like I would have never have even been able to fathom or even claim that statement. And so all I did in 2009 was commit to the idea of I just want to create a business where I can work from anywhere in the world. I don't even know what that looks like, but that's just what I want to do. And so it's just kind of evolved. And so to answer your question, like I went over in April of this year, is 2014, over to Nick Unsworth's what we call the infamous Mansion Mastermind event, I guess.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. So like, you know, it's this big 12,000 square foot house. And there's like 40 entrepreneurs, and we're all just like hanging out, just like, you know, sleeping on floors, windowsills. There was plenty of beds, but they're all kind of taken. There's more people than there were beds. So like we're crashed out all over the place. And before I got there, Nick said, hey, dude, do you mind coming down and, you know, teaching what's working for you on Twitter to our mastermind group? I was like, yeah, sure. So I put together like the morning before, I really had no clue what I was even going to talk about to this group. So the morning before, I got up early, and I've done a successful webinar prior talking about how to create nearly unlimited leads on Twitter. So I took that presentation, tweaked it, and then that's what I taught. Like I literally put it together that morning, and I walked down. I was like, okay, I'm ready to go. And so I did like a 25-minute teaching, and after I got done, everybody was just like blown away. They're just like, oh my gosh, this is great content. Well, then I didn't know that Nick was going to leak the freaking thing online. He didn't really leak it. He just like released it. But I didn't know he
released it on Life on Fire TV. So I watched that actually, and it's great. We are going to get into all the good strategies soon, but continue, please.
Yeah. So I didn't know he was going to do that. So it went live, and then my Twitter account like blew up. People are like, hey, that was like some of the best training I've heard. People are like, hey, I've listened to a lot of podcasts, and that was like one of the most content nugget-filled episodes I've ever seen. And other people were like, hey, I tweaked my bio, and I got 150 new followers just from doing that. Hey, I played the follow game. I got 400 followers in the past 3 days. And I'm like, wow, like people are getting results from implementing this information that I kind of thought was common knowledge. Maybe there's something here that I kind of need to come into our whole world of the internet marketing and kind of share these strategies.
Definitely. I mean, this is interesting. And I mean, now let's get into a little bit of kind of the steps you have for positioning yourself in on Twitter, and what you do when you are getting started. Like let's say you're launching your brand and you want to use Twitter as a like part of your marketing strategy on social media. What should you do first?
So there's a couple things I do. I would get us to power number one, meaning like before we even come to the platform, we have to figure out who you are and who in the world are you helping, and then how are you helping them, right? Because like all of this, whether you're using Twitter, whether you're using Facebook, whether it's Instagram, Pinterest, it doesn't matter. Whatever social platform you want to use, it's all a tool to drive traffic to the website.
Exactly.
So, you know, if you're, number one, power, if we're not having your website set up where you're capturing leads, where you have some type of lead magnet, some type of opt-in offer to be able to capture the leads and solve what I always say, that big-ass problem for your target market, then you're going to be wasting your time on Twitter. I mean, yeah, you know, you could connect with influencers. They may have you on their podcast. But again, what's the point of going through all of that work if you're taking all that exposure and it's just going to an online brochure that's not going to be able to add value to your target market, that's not going to be able to build yourself and build your authority within your market, that's not going to help you capture leads, and ultimately it's never going to make you money. So we have to start there. Once that's set, then we come on to Twitter. And we always say, okay, now let's write that bio, or actually let's start with the profile picture.
Yeah.
Number one, profile picture needs to be of your face, like an authentic picture of you, by the way, like an authentic representation, something that's going to capture like the spirit, the essence of you. I've learned that those type of pictures, they convert better. I've tested like using logos for the profile pictures versus like a personal profile picture.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you that the person will outperform by far, like 2 to 3 times outperform the brand logo profile picture.
Wow.
So I'd say, you go the personal brand route. Even if it's for your company, I would really challenge you, if you're using it to drive traffic to your website, use it to build your own personal authority, as the CEO of the company, etc. You could also have the other account, don't get me wrong, but most of the action is going to take place on your personal account. That'd be the first thing. Next thing would be writing that bio. Find like 3 to 4 descriptive words that are going to describe you. Some people will be like, mom, dad, husband, wife, Jesus lover, Buddha lover, like there's random words. And then that's kind of the gist of their bio or something like that. Or tweets are my opinions only, or whatever the disclaimer is, or whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
So I'd say, hey, look, you're here to solve your target market's problems. I mean, people are online. Are they on social just to connect? Absolutely. But the majority of them are online looking for a solution. So if we can learn to wrap our mindsets around that, hey, we're salespeople, we're marketers, we're business people. Our job is to come and liberate our people. How do we do that? We do that by solving their problems. So how can I create content that's going to do that? So then we come to the bio and say, okay, 3 or 4 descriptive words, and then a short sentence of I help X, which would be who. Who do you help? I help X on or do or get what, and then so that they can have Z, which would be like a benefit. So if you like look at mine, it'd be like I help women launch a product, program, or business so they can create a life of freedom. I mean, it's very simple. So that way, when I'm going out, when we come in here in the promotion methods here in a second, and I'm connecting with my target market, they're like, who's this AJ guy that followed me? Yeah. Or who's David that followed me? And they click through to your profile. Boom, they see a nice face that's authentic. They're like, hey, this guy, I like this guy. This guy feels good to me, right? On a deeper level, they're feeling something. They're having an experience. Then they're reading the bio very quickly, and they're like, hey, he may be able to help me. That's going to then increase your click-throughs to your website to increase organic traffic to the site. And then if your site's set up, optimized, capture leads, then you're going to be building your list.
Yeah, and I want to get into a few things here that you talked about. And one thing is that in your bio, you mentioned here how you should write your bio and all this. It's great stuff. Yeah. But like the link to your website, should it just be to your homepage? Should it be maybe to a special page for just maybe the Twitter followers? And how should you think when you're creating this lead magnet?
Yeah, so I guess it could depend on your strategy. I mean, if you wanted to take them just to a landing page, a one-page landing page, you could do that. What I've been doing is I take them to my homepage. But the homepage on my website is set up like a landing page because I wanted one hub for everything to filter through, and it would have the lead magnet, and people could come in right from the homepage. And of course, on the rest of the pages throughout the site, I have the same opt-in on the sidebar, but I use the homepage as that one thing.
Yeah, so more exposure, right? You put it on different places,
And then one of the things you could do if you wanted to track and say, well, what's really working for me? You could take and do a bit.ly link. Take your URL for your homepage, make a bit.ly link out of it, drop it in there, and that way you can track the clicks from Twitter, so you know how many clicks you're getting to your website. I mean, yeah, you could use Google Analytics if you wanted to track it that way. But I know, like for like Nick Unsworth and stuff, we're using Infusionsoft, and this kind of go a little higher level for those listening who are ready for this information. And we created affiliate links for everything. I mean, every piece of content has its own affiliate link. Everything has its own affiliate link. I then grab those affiliate links from Infusionsoft, drop them in Bitly, and then drop them into the Twitter. So then we know exactly what tweets are getting, website conversions, meaning they're dropping into the list, and out of those, which ones are converting into customers. So we can see exactly what our efforts are doing and how much money that's producing.
Wow, that's really cool, and that's actually a very smart strategy to do that as well. So if we continue a little bit here with the steps, what's the next thing they should do? And when they are on Twitter, they have maybe their bio, have a great lead magnet. I mean, that we can maybe talk a little bit about what kind of lead magnet would you put together?
Yeah, if we come into lead magnet, I love video, dude. Like, I am a freaking video whore. I love video, man. Like, I just love it. And one of the things I love about video is that it helps you freaking like build the like ridiculous rapport with your audience. Because if you learn how to shoot, like, it's not really like shooting video well. It's actually this, if you learn to be present with the lens, meaning you just have to look directly into the lens, and if you can connect with the lens like you would be connecting and looking into the eyeballs of a human being, you are literally there teaching and connecting with people 365 days a year, 24/7. Like, you're completely there in their living rooms or on their phone, wherever they are connecting with you. So I would say video is a great
I've seen that. That's what you're using. You have it on your homepage. You have it for some products you're doing as well. But otherwise, like, think about what I'm doing. I think about it this way: what would people maybe pay you even $97 for or something, and then put that together? And if it's so good, then obviously, if your free stuff is really great, then they would be willing to pay for your products or services down the road as well when you build this relationship. So
got it. And I always think about, like, it's a great point, because you say, okay, well, we're going to sell this $97 product. That would be the end result of them opting into the lead magnet. The goal is to sell them the $97 product. I always say, okay, cool. If our goal is to train them, or get them the $97 product, then how can we train them to transaction? Meaning, once they opt in, how can we train them a little bit, maybe over 3 days, before we then offer the 97? So that way, whether you're doing this through audio, whether you're doing this through video, whether you're doing this through blog posts, whether you're doing it through whatever form a person is comfortable with using, that's building the rapport and training that person to a transaction. And they're more than likely, once they get to the sales piece, instead of up front, if we do it over a few days before, they're like, man, this guy's been giving me so much information and helping me right now. Imagine what it would be like if I buy his thing. That's going to also increase some of the sales. And that way you're having this automated follow-up sequence. You're also having an automated sales sequence, but you're using Twitter to push the traffic into the campaign sequence, essentially. And then again, you have the automated sales system that's going and building the rapport, and then bam, offering the sale. And then ultimately, that's going to be making you money. And that way you're actually monetizing your tweets.
Definitely. We can get into more of this as well. But first, let's talk a bit more about the steps there in the beginning. What I mean, after we have the bio, for example, we need some followers probably. And they know how we should maybe schedule out our tweets and all this kind of stuff when you're getting started.
Absolutely. So the second step I would do, I always call it packaging. And so what I learned in the music world was, if you made people think you were cool, you were. Like, it was all about the way you looked. And I learned this story because we were playing this huge festival in Cornerstone. It's Cornerstone Festival in Illinois. There's like 20,000 people at this festival. And we just got done doing shows. We did like 3 shows in one day. It was hot. It was crazy. We're tired. And we came back to our campsite, and we had been cooking beans all day. We had like dug a little pit in the ground and put our little cast iron skillet in the ground and lit a fire and put beans on. And that way when we came back, we'd have beans and burgers and so forth. Well, anyway, this guy just pulled up next to us. And we said, hey, dude, we have plenty of food. Do you want to join us? He's like, yeah. So he came over and started kicking it with us. Well, he was an executive for a record label. We had no clue. We were just being nice and offering some food. So then we got to chatting, and he's like, dude, let me hear your music. So we went into his car and played our record for him. And he's like, hey, it's really good. And he said, what kind of clothes are you guys wearing? And so I told him, he said, okay, here's my advice to you guys. He said, go home when you get home and go spend about $100, $200 a piece on clothes, just like one outfit per person. And he said, every day wear these clothes. Like, not every day, but like if you're performing, wear the clothes. He said, if you're on tour for a week or two, and wear the clothes every single day. It doesn't matter. He's like, I don't care if they stink. I don't care if they stand up on their own and they're nasty. Wear the clothes. And I was like, cool, what do we have to lose? Because at this time, we didn't have record label offers or anything. I mean, we were just hustling, trying to make it. And so we took his advice, went home, and I decided, okay, everybody's going to wear black skinny jeans. Everybody's going to wear some type of black shirt or something in their own style, but the lead singer, a white V-neck. And we're like, okay. And we all agreed upon that. We all went and bought these clothes. So our first chance to wear these clothes, I'll make this make sense, is we went over to Nashville, Tennessee for this record label showcase. And we all showed up like as a cohesive unit. And when we walked in, everybody in that room was like, who are these guys? Oh my gosh, like this, like the noise and the chatter and the whispering was like carrying throughout the room because we had instantaneous perceived value before we even played. Like in their minds, they were perceiving us as these freaking rock stars. So then when we took the stage and we did our showcase and delivered, because we could back up our perceived value, it then blew our perception through the roof because then we pretty much delivered the promise. Promise was they saw us looking like this credible band. We then delivered the promise, which is we were, and we created this experience for them that was ridiculous, and then we got offered the record deal. And then to add on to the story, we went to Cracker Barrel after the record showcase, and we're still in our attire, and people had no clue who we were, and the hostess and the waitress was like, hey, can we have your autographs? Like, they didn't know who we were. Again, it was a perceived value. So what I learned online was the same thing. Like our Twitter headers are, we have the backgrounds, but now we have the Twitter headers, the Facebook cover photos are the photos we use on our websites. All of this is positioning. And like, especially for online entrepreneurs, because we're all so guilty of like, let's just throw something up and, don't worry about it. Like if we will take the time, and I've learned like lifestyle photography is huge. If you'll just go get a good lifestyle photography shoot and then use that on for your Twitter header, your Facebook cover photos, your websites, you have this instantaneous positioning where people are coming to an experience with you and they're like, man, this Navid guy, he is like on it, right? And then if they get into the content and you deliver, then you're continually delivering that like over delivering that their perceived value, right? And so that would be my next piece of advice when it comes to Twitter is packaging. Like have a nice cover header photo. And the dimensions for those who want to get it designed on Elance or Odesk or Fiverr or do it yourself, 3,000 by 1,000. 3,000
They recently changed that, right? So before they had these kind of small ones. I mean, it's important, as you say here, positioning. And I mean, that's something I'm working with my designer to get a really nice one up here very soon as well for my brand. But I mean, that's like consistency we are talking about. To maybe have the same as you have on your website or Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all these places, Google Plus, doesn't matter. Just consistent brand is super important, and you can be, as you said, be perceived as perceived as an expert essentially, and position yourself in your field. It's extremely important. So I completely agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, because like essentially your offline confidence has to be congruent with your online presence. And vice versa, your online presence has to be congruent with your offline confidence. Because if they're not congruent, like you will not make money. Like meaning, if you have this ridiculous online presence where you look like you are the expert, but then people come and they're ingesting and they're going through your content, or they're meeting you offline at some networking event or some meetup, and then you're not matching that same confidence level that your image is projecting, people are like, man, I thought this guy had it going on, but this guy's just not very confident. He's not very certain. I don't know what's going on here. So you lose credibility. And at the same time, if they meet you offline and they're like, man, this guy is like certain, he's confident, and then they're going to pull out their phones when they leave, and they're like, man, who's this guy? And they Google you, and then your online presence is just like, it's not happening very well. They're like, well, what's going on? Maybe he's not as credible as I thought. Maybe he just talks a big game. And so this is why it's important in this day and age for us to have both spaces like just positioned really, really well and working together congruently.
Okay, amazing tips. Yeah.
The third step I talk about, because we talked about power, which was writing everything. We talked about packaging. Then it would be coming up with a plan. Like I would never tackle any platform without a plan. So the simple plan that I use, I create an Excel document, and I just tweet 9 times a day with different types of tweets. So it'd be like at 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10:30 a.m., and then let's see, 12, 1, 3:30, 4, 6, and 8, something like that. I don't remember. Something like that. I don't know.
Maybe we can give the audience access to this as well if you want to. We can give them a gift. They can check it out if you have it.
Yeah, definitely. I can. We can definitely make
set
that
up a
happen.
link for that as well for sure in the show notes
Yeah.
page. So that sounds great.
Yeah. Sweet, I'll do that. And so I just have that, and then the different types would be like a retweet, a blog post. And by the way, like I had one client, she thought she had to write like 2 blog posts, like new blog posts a day for the blog post. I was like, no, like go grab some of your old content and just retweet it. It's okay. She's like, oh, thank God. So like you guys could like share your old content because it's still good. And the longevity of your tweet is so short. Feel free to grab those old pieces of content and then just recycle them and make sure we're using some good hashtags so people can find them within the Twitter searches. So we have like retweets, blog posts. We have different like personal touches, which talk about like just something going on in my life. Talk about live events I'm going to. Talk about like stats. Talk about like motivational, inspirational quotes.
That works great. Like quotes works great. And something else. Do you have any tools for that? For example, when you're tweeting out old blog posts, are there some tools you can use to kind of automate that a little bit from your site?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I use Hootsuite. There's others out there. I personally use Hootsuite. It's just what I've been using for a long time. And so again, I'll grab all my blog posts. I'll create Bitly links out of all of them. And so I log into Bitly. I have my Hootsuite open, and I'll just go through, grab a blog post, and then drop it in there. With the Bitly link. Then what we need to understand though on Twitter, because it's a really big difference from all the different platforms, is you have to learn like to write in headlines. So if you're really serious about starting to drive organic traffic with Twitter, you need to start paying attention to magazines. Like feel free to go to here in the States, we have grocery stores that we'd go to, like the big like Whole Foods or anything like that has the magazines, or bookstores, and go to the magazine section. You don't have to buy them, but just look at the headlines. Like look at what they're writing. Go to some of those CNN or BBC or even TMZ for that matter. You don't have to like the content, but just look at how they're writing the headlines and how can you start tweaking that into how you're writing. Even Social Media Examiner. I mean, Mike does a great job of writing a lot of the headlines.
He's
Social Media
amazing
Examiner.
for that, yeah.
Exactly. So go really reverse engineer and model what those guys are doing because it works when it comes to creating your content. The other thing I'd add to that is like, people say, well, what do I tweet about? And I had a guy come up to me one day when I was working in the brick and mortar space, and he's like, AJ, I don't want to do the social media thing. I don't want people to know what color of underwear I'm wearing. And I'm like, dude, nobody wants to know what color of underwear you're wearing. Like, you don't have to tweet about that. You don't have to make Facebook posts about that. So it comes back to, what is your stance? Like regardless of your industry, what is your stance? Like what pisses you off? What message do you want to preach? And then allow all of your content and all of your tweets to revolve around that stance. So if we look at my stance, I want to see people just be inspired to go out and pursue their passions, whatever it excites them, and then figure out how do we equip them with the tools to actually pull that off. Because we can be excited about something, but if we don't have the skill sets to pull it off, then it's just kind of pointless, okay? So I try to take everything I do revolves around that. So not only is it just marketing, I'll tweet on meditation. I'll tweet on green smoothies because I've learned all of these things are kind of the foundational basis to my success. I'll tweet on fitness because I've discovered that fitness has helped me increase my clarity. It's helped me increase my confidence levels and my certainty levels, which then affects my business because it's affecting how I show up. And so I tweet about all of those things because it serves my audience, which is helping them launch and monetize. So for those listening today, what is your stance? What pisses you off? How can you use that and let your content to revolve around that stance?
Extremely important. Something else I use actually is called twitterfeed.com, and that you can actually share out influencers posts. For example, if you like someone's blog already and you don't have time to go every time to their blog, but their content is great, you just set up maybe the RSS feed inside of Twitter feed and add the Twitter handle, and then they can see that. I've done so a lot, and actually I tweet out probably more than 9 times as you're tweeting out because I have this kind of, it's automatically set up. But with some influencers, they love that I'm tweeting their posts, even though in some cases you don't have time to read everything. There's so much going on. But some people, you just like their stuff, and why not support that and build a relationship with them? So
Absolutely. No, I think it's a great tip. And I do the same thing. I don't use Twitter feed, but I do the same thing of going out and finding those influencers who have the content that I like, that's resonating with me, that I know would serve my audience, and sharing it with my audience. Because,
definitely.
essentially, if you continue helping them, Zig Ziglar talked about, if you help enough people get what they want, then eventually you'll get
One of
what
my
you
favorite quotes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So essentially, that's what you and I are both doing here is we're saying, hey, here's the influencers. And the interesting thing, by the way, to side tangent on this, is you're not sharing it because you want something from the influencer.
Yeah.
It's actually you're sharing it because you genuinely have an intent that, hey, I really like this person
Exactly.
and I really like what they have going on. And you're sharing it from that space rather than trying to get something from the influencer.
Exactly, without expecting anything in return.
Exactly.
It's extremely important to start that way. Build up this list of influencers so you have them as a support network as you go. But down the road they will also see that you're supporting them, and then they will maybe help you as well. But don't expect that when you're just starting out. Just provide value and be helpful. So,
exactly. Yeah, I just wanted to put that tangent because I know people would be coming in and be like, oh, I'm just going to go share all the influencers and they're going to, so I just kind of wanted
to. It doesn't work that way. But okay, let's keep going a little bit. So we have all this. We know kind of we have the plan here, how we're going to schedule everything. We are using some tools to kind of automate this a little bit. What's the next step? Maybe build up the followers. Is that what you would do next?
You got it. So after you have some good tweets going, if we're starting from a brand new account, you wouldn't want to just go start following people with no tweets because people are like, this person hasn't even tweeted yet. Yeah. So I'd spend, 3 or 4 days tweeting, just having some really good content. And then we come into the idea of promotion. And so I created this idea called the follow game, and it's worked for me. It's been working for everybody I teach it to. And so what I do is I'll spend 15 minutes a day. I'll literally just set a timer on my phone, and I will go in, and again, comes back to knowing your target audience. And I'll say, okay, well, who are these influencers who've been doing this for a while that have these big Twitter accounts, and who's following these people? Like, who are the people in my space, in my industry? And so I'd go to their Twitter accounts, like Amy Porterfield, for example, and she'd have, 60, 70, 80,000 people following her. Yeah. And I would go into her following, because that's the great thing about Twitter. You can see everybody that's following her. And then I would, for 15 minutes, just click follow, 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 follow. And I would follow those people who had a profile picture. I'd follow those people who had a long bio, because that, to me, signified that they took the time to actually write the bio. Yeah. And I would do that for 15 minutes, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Every day, 15 minutes, I played the follow game. Then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I would not follow anybody. I'd let it sit. And then come Monday again, I would use a tool called Manage Flitter.
I love that tool. It's amazing.
Okay, sweet. Yeah. So manageflitter.com. And whoever had not followed me back over that period of time, I would unfollow. And then, guess what? I'd go back to my follow game. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'd go into a different account and follow the other people again.
Yeah, I can imagine like Marie Forley or someone would be great for what you are doing, I guess. So.
No, dude, Marie's people totally resonate with me and convert well. Even running Facebook ads, they convert well for me. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, we're going to get into that a bit as well. So, okay, so it's just taking some time every day to kind of 15 to 30 minutes, follow some people. And what do you do with them? They are maybe following you back a certain percentage, right? Do that? How do you interact with them?
Yeah, so what I will do is a certain percentage following back, of course. And what's interesting is not only will a certain percentage follow me back, a certain percentage will actually click through and opt into the website. So that's this is like the fuel, the rocket fuel that's going to help grow your following and boost your organic traffic and boost your organic impressions. And it's crazy how big this plays out. If I could go in and screen share and show you stats right now with some of the accounts I help, you will see the days we don't play the game, the days the reach goes down. It's really pretty crazy how it all works hand in hand.
Really? Okay, cool.
So one of the things that I will do is I use Gmail, and so I'll usually create a unique email just for this Twitter account, because I hate getting all the notifications into my email box. Yeah. And so it'd be like ajamixtwitter@gmail.com or something like that, even though that's not a real email address. But let's just pretend like it is. And so I would take that Twitter account, link it to that Gmail, and that way within Gmail you have the tabs. So everything's within the social tab. I will go in and I'll turn off all the notifications except for new followers. And that way I'm notified of all the new followers So therefore, the next day when I'm responding to everybody who's mentioned me, who's favorited my tweets, I'll literally say, thanks for retweeting, thanks for favoriting, thanks for mentioning, just building the relationship. I'll give all those new followers a shout out. And sometimes it may take me 20 tweets or 15 tweets, and I'll be like, great new followers, awesome new followers, epic new followers, and give all these people a shout out. What's interesting is these people then retweet this information, and it gives you more exposure, right? And then the other thing that I'll do is if I'm intuitively drawn to like their profile image, this is something I have to listen to my body on, which I know is probably weird when it comes to business and marketing. Yeah. But if I'm intuitively drawn to their profile, I click through. And then based upon their bio, I'm like, hey, this person's interesting. I'll click through their website. I'll do a little bit of due diligence. And I'm like, hey, I like what this person has going on. And so then I would literally tweet them and say, hey, I love the simple layout of your site. What do you have going on in your world? And the other thing that I've learned too is sometimes I will not go all the way through their website. But if somebody just says, hey, thanks for following me, I'll just immediately say, hey, you're most welcome. What do you have going on in your world? Or what are you working on in your world? And see, one of the things I learned is I was asking, how is it going? Or how's everything going in your world is what I said. And people always said, fine, fantastic, wonderful, like nothing was wrong. And I'm like, God, I know some things like they have a problem. Come on, right? And so I changed my statement to what are you working on or
that's actually been working well for me as well. Sometimes when I interact, I don't do it as much as you like this, but I will definitely implement some of these strategies. But I tend to ask them kind of, what are you working on? What do you have going on in your business or something like that? And then they respond and I get to know if maybe I can provide some value.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Or if you can't provide value, you're like, hey, you need to connect with so-and-so. I mean, you're still adding value by saying, hey, connect with so-and-so. But yeah, that's awesome. Dude, I have literally gotten like one-on-one coaching clients from that strategy. Hey, what are you working on in your world? Or what are you looking to accomplish? And they're like, I'm looking to launch and monetize a business. It's like, hey, man, it's actually what I do. Do you want to talk? You want to set up time to talk? And they're like, yeah. And let me preface that before I even get into that piece. I'll ask them, like, what's holding you back from doing that? Like, really trying to get them into, I know it sounds terrible, but a place of pain of like why they aren't accomplishing their goals. And I'll really get them to that place and then say, hey, well, I'll do this. I don't know if you're interested. In like, yeah, we got to. Then we get on the Skype call and then
build the relationship with them as well.
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, that's fantastic. I think that's really great tips. And I think a lot of people, they are not treating Twitter this way. It's like a relationship building tool essentially, and it can build your business because you can grow your business by having an amazing relationship with other people. And I think a lot of people are doing this wrong. I think you agree with that as well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, most people are just coming in there and they're using Twitter to rant and rave, or just drop random information with really out monitoring the relationship piece. And, like they want retweets, they want the mentions, but really what does it equate to? And what it equates to is more impressions, more reach, and again, more traffic to the website. And so if people would come into it thinking like Twitter is this big party, like where you can go connect with like-minded people. But it'd be like if we bring it back offline. Let's pretend like the internet doesn't work, and let's say everybody. Let's even break it down even simpler. Like there's a party full of internet marketers, and you're just walking into the room handing out business cards to all these people. Nothing's going to happen for you. Like people are going to hate you. Okay, and that's what most people do on Twitter is they're walking into the party handing out business cards. And it's like stop. If you are that person who can shift. And you walk into the party now full of online marketers, authors, speakers, coaches, etc., and you just start shaking hands, having a good time, talking about real life stuff, and genuinely interested in people and connecting with people, you will like blow your business out of the water because then you're building relationships, you're listening to people, you're being present with people. Now, if we take that skill set translated in Twitter, now you start coming into people and you're asking, just like you're doing, and saying, what do you have going on in your world? What are you looking to accomplish? You're building those relationships and you're asking those deeper questions, which then foster business. And you're no longer the sleazy guy just handing out business.
I mean, we get into this now as well. Is that the method that kind of you are using for getting your clients and customers? Is that the best way to get them on for maybe one-on-one calls, as you mentioned here?
Yeah, dude, that has been one of my biggest tools is just having those conversations on Twitter. And honestly, it may take me a couple weeks, maybe even 3 weeks of tweeting back and forth, not every day, but maybe every couple of days, just, talking about, what looking to accomplish. Have you tried this? What's holding you back from this? And, we're going back and forth, or we're going through a direct message back and forth. And then and then there's the need for the call. And then they'll decide if they want to come in and play, or they're going to be like, oh, it's too expensive for me. And I say, well, hey, go work with this person. So yeah, that's literally been it. It's really having conversations.
What have you been? I mean, I was going to ask you this as well. What have you been kind of found working when it comes to tweeting, getting retweeted? Maybe you're using hashtags and all this kind of good stuff. I know there's some tools for that as well, so you can see kind of what hashtags you should be using. So let's talk about this as well a little bit.
Yeah, so when it comes to what hashtags to use, I've been using ritetag.com, ritetag.com. And so it color coordinates all of our hashtags, meaning if it's red, it means it's like that hashtag is gonna be lost. Like you're going to tweet it with that hashtag, let's say hashtag business. So many people are using that hashtag, the longevity of your tweets just gone, and pretty much instantaneously. So you're not gonna have much weight there. The other thing is if it's blue, that means it's a good keyword. It's not great. It's good, which means it's going to be more for longevity's sake. So go ahead and use it. Something like hashtag online marketing is usually blue. If we come into green, which is great, it means people can find it now. It's going to have some staying power. And so you want to really compose those tweets with those great green hashtags. Stuff, some of them like hashtag inspiration, hashtag motivation, and even sometimes on the weekends, what's interesting, hashtag business and hashtag marketing. They'll go from like a red during the week, and sometimes on the weekend they'll be green, which is very interesting.
It depends when you tweet out, actually. Okay, cool.
Yeah, exactly.
So what tweets do you find like getting retweeted the most? Like what you are doing? Like that's how we kind of get the exposure on other people's networks as well.
Inspirational quotes always have been super big heavy hitters. The other thing is like a really, really well-written headline, meaning like 5 ways to build a list of 10,000 people in less than a week using hashtag Facebook marketing, bit.ly link, hashtag entrepreneur, hashtag SMM for social media marketing, right? Like that one would be
headlines. Okay, great. Really so really learn how to craft compelling headlines. Another way, actually, what I've personally found working is when I have list posts and I include other influencers, I give them shout outs on Twitter. These posts went viral. I had a post on personal branding tips and I did one for podcast. So, these posts really got exposure because obviously I gave the influencers a shout out and then they wanted to show that for their followers. And in some cases I had like really big social media influencers with hundreds of thousands of followers and they tweeted it. Obviously that was good for my brand and business. So yeah.
That's awesome. I like it. That's it. That's really the ones that have been doing really good. Oh, actually, there's another thing. Sometimes I'll do like a bracket, not like a parentheses, but like a little square bracket, and I'll say like little square bracket free training, and then close it with a little square bracket, and then have the headline. Or I'll do like the little square bracket podcast in brackets, or new video, or new. Something like that, where they can like roll at a quick glance, like, ooh, podcast, and then they can read the headline. Ooh, new free training or new webinar, and then they can read the headline. That's kind of helped break through the noise of the Twitter feed as well.
Something else that's extremely important, because every once in a while you might have something to sell. Maybe you have a free webinar or something, and you want to get your list going. Are you using ads for that, or can you do this in an organic way to build your email list?
Yeah, so I've been definitely the organic way to build the email list. So Twitter ads did roll out to platform. I've been experimenting with Twitter ads and seeing how they're working. If it's not going to work, one of the biggest ways to do it right now is with Facebook ads. Dude, they're so cheap. Right now, I haven't checked my stats this morning, but I know as of like yesterday, I'm getting conversions, meaning opt-ins to a webinar for $2.06.
Wow.
So
that's that's great, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I'm like thrilled to death. Usually they're around $4 or $5, and so for this,
I've heard that as well.
This current promotion I'm running, they were like at $1.78, and I was like, you got to be kidding me! I was just like so excited. So do this, but also what I've done on my campaign is I created a contest. So after they register into the webinar, They then get a raffle ticket if they go like the Facebook post and share the post or comment on it. They'll also get another raffle ticket if they will go tweet. And I used, just generated on that tweet. And so I'm pretty much incentivizing people to share and promote my stuff, which is fine. I mean, it's all like this fun game, and it's a contest. People love contests. And so that's working really, really good of people using Twitter, writing it for them, that good headline, and these people are going out and sharing that content because they want to be entered into that contest, and that's helping generate more exposure, more traffic to the webinar.
So, but have you seen like Twitter ads really working? I mean, I know we can talk about this as well. Like with you're helping Nick Unsworth with his Twitter, and you've been seeing some differentiations between his personal account, Nick Unsworth, and Life on Fire. Let's talk about this as well. This is quite interesting, I think.
Yeah. So with his account in particular, dude, the Nick Unsworth account was kicking the Life on Fire's account's ass. And what was interesting is, we were literally split testing and like, let's see which one outdoes the other one, because they're both dropping pretty much the same types of content. They're both dropping, literally pretty much the same headlines, just kind of different times of the day. But dude, Nick his account was dominating. His account would get like 300 clicks. The other one would have like 30 clicks. We're talking about significant difference.
Just because it's personal, right?
Yeah, just because it's personal. And so I was like, all right, well, and by the way, his follower ratio, he'll blow up and have, 500, 700 people, 800 people a week following him, and the other one, a couple hundred. And so, that, again, tremendous difference. So last week, we towards the end of the week, we rolled out having his face as the profile picture for Life on Fire. Still has the logo, but we rolled out his face on it. Guess what? People started following it more, right? And so
interesting,
yeah, cool. Dude, that's just being honest here. What's going on there? And so what we're doing with his stuff is we're using it to drive organic traffic, and we're going to start experimenting with some Twitter ads and see how they're converting. The Twitter ads are so new. Like Facebook ads have been around a long time in the internet space, meaning 3 years now, maybe 4 years or something like that.
Okay.
And
give some tips if someone want to experiment. Let's say they want to try Twitter ads out. What should they think about? What should they focus on?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways you can do it. You have like what they call the lead card, the Twitter lead card, which allows you to generate a card that you can do a promoted tweet, and when they click on it, people can opt in to your campaign right within Twitter. So you literally build your list with Twitter cards within the newsfeed of Twitter. They don't ever have to leave. And that
costs how much is that? How much is that? Do you have to pay for that, or is it free?
Yeah, you got to pay for it. So this would be a type of a Twitter ad, and it's probably going to cost you anywhere between 61 cents and $1.12, $1.21 per click.
Per click, and then per opt-in, it depends how many people feel compelled to actually click through, right?
Yeah, and here's the interesting thing where it kind of gets interesting with Twitter is they call like a click. It doesn't necessarily mean a click to the website. If they click on the promoted post to drop down, it's a click. They doesn't necessarily mean they click through to the link. Or if they click anywhere on your promoted tweet, if that means they click on your account and then they're coming and follow, then that's going to be a click, okay?
Yeah.
So you would want to use a bit.ly link within the promoted tweet so you could actually track the click-throughs. Because your Twitter ads account may say something like, oh, well, you had 100 clicks, and then your bit.ly link may say, well, you only had 5 clicks. And so you're like, well, where's the discrepancy? Well, that means only 5 people out of the 100 clicked through, through all the way through the process. But within the Twitter app, with the V card, the Twitter card, you can just, like I said, good headline, and then they click on it to opt in to get the free gift right there within Twitter. And once they opt in, because it syncs with Infusionsoft and Aweber and all that stuff, they're automatically dropped into your campaign, and then your campaign has to do the follow-up work to monetize that. That would be one thing.
But
Second thing.
One thing here is as well, you have to be really specific who you're targeting, I guess. There's a lot of noise on Twitter. I think that's an important point.
Yeah, and go on that, like on the targeting, you can do kind of like you do with Facebook ads. You can say, hey, I want this tweet to follow up or show up to the followers of Navid, or the followers of Pat Flynn, or the followers of Amy Porterfield, or in the United States and in Canada and the United Kingdom. Like you can hone it in, only male, only female. You could hone it in a little bit and see. And so like for me, I was running something just to see, just again, testing for me before I started teaching this stuff, which was how much does it cost to get like a follow on Twitter? So I ran like just a promoted like follow me type tweet. And I was getting women who would follow me for 53 cents. And then the men who would follow me, I don't remember the number exactly, I think it was like $1.12 or something like that. It was a lot more. And so I was like, if I redid this, then I should just target women, same audience, but let's just go with women because it was costing me half per conversion because it was just a follow essentially. Another thing that you could do is just run a regular promoted tweet, which would just be, again, pretty much the same concept, but instead of having where they can click in and opt in, the whole goal would be for them to like it and then click and go through to like a landing page, like promoting a webinar. And you'd be using it, again, just targeting followers of Marie Forleo, followers of Amy Porterfield, really honing in on that niche and that industry to make sure you're reaching your target market.
I mean, that's very interesting. And I mean, basically you can use it as well, maybe to get retweets if you wanted to get seen for more people. I guess that's also working with Twitter ads. I've seen some people doing that.
Yeah, definitely. And you don't have to like break the bank. I mean, I think people have this misconception like, oh, I have to have thousands of dollars to run advertising to get results. You guys can start with $10 or $20. I mean, just log into Twitter, create your ad account and just start playing around for $20. And people say, well, $20 a day. So if we scale this out, this is 20 times 30. So I have to spend at least $600 a month. I don't have $600. No, you just play around for $20 a week. I mean, just play around and start getting good at that stuff and just start on a small scale. And as you learn what's working and it's starting to convert for you, then start ramping up your ad budget as you can and allow it just to grow. Dude, when I started running Facebook ads, I started at like $10 or $20 a day, and I may only do it for 5 days, and that's it. And that'd be it for the month, And then now, I don't mind spending $500 or $600 in a week to run, traffic to a webinar, But I didn't start out that way. Yeah. So I want people listening to know, like, just start where you're at.
Very important. And here as well with you mentioned lead cards, right, with Twitter. And I mean, there's something called Twitter cards as well, when you can get your post to display. I mean, that's what I use for my post. So if I have a featured image, it displays the entire featured image and I can get more text essentially. Have you been experimenting with that as well?
I haven't, but that definitely within the Twitter card, same. I mean, yeah, that's exactly. You design that little image that drops down, and it's like a little advertisement that they then can do whatever you want them to do.
Yeah, so that you can also set up, and if you search for Twitter cards, you can set this up with I use the Yoast plugin, okay. And then I just put in my Twitter handle. So that's been working great. It was a little struggle to set it up, but then now it's working great. But lead cards, that's inside of Twitter, right?
Yeah, all of this stuff is within Twitter. All of it's within Twitter. And the other thing that's cool about setting up your ads account, which is free, by the way, is they give you like really good analytics. So even if you're not going to run like Twitter ads, just having the analytics for Twitter is awesome. So you can see and track your follows. Like you'll have a graph within the Twitter ads platform that'll say analytics, and you can see your followers. You can also see like your metrics of mentions and retweets, and so you can see how these are corresponding. And you can see what week was working, what week wasn't working. You could also see your most retweeted tweets and your most mentioned. Okay. So it will tell you like what you're doing is working, what's not working within the Twitter ad platform. Even if you're not running paid traffic, that's just your platform. Even break it down and tell you your demographics of who's following you and what their interests are and their gender and where they're at. Like there's some really cool data just back there in that Twitter ads dashboard.
Wow, that's amazing. And I mean, now we've been covering a lot of stuff, but essentially it's all about you positioning yourself as the go-to person in your field. So like when you're starting out and you want to become this go-to person, maybe it's in Twitter like you've been doing. Is it just about having a consistent brand? Is that enough when it's so much noise there? How do you stand out?
Dude, I think it is definitely a consistent brand is number one. Like, definitely number one is consistency because think about it like I always have to come back to the music industry because it's like my background. Like you think of artists that were the one-hit wonders. Like think of I'm a rock and roll guy. So like Oleander from like 1999, I think, or 2000 when they put out. I don't remember the song, but they had one song, and I remember like thinking 12 years later the other day, I was like, man, whatever happened to that band? Like they just like disappeared. Like nobody remembers them because they're the one-hit wonder. And what I mean by this is like in the internet space, people create like one good piece of content or two or three good blog posts, and then they're gone because there's no consistency. Or maybe they do one great guest blog post or one great good like anchor podcast interview, and then they're gone, and they're like, well, that didn't work very well. And it's those of us that choose to consistently just go. Like we will not stop. Like we will die before we stop going and creating like the lifestyle that we want to create. Those are the people who are going to become the authorities. And everybody's be looking at like the Amy Porterfield or the Tony Robbins or the Brendon Burchard, like, and they think, oh, well, these guys are experts. I want to be like them. They've been doing it for almost 20 years. Like they've been doing it for 12 years. They've been doing it for 18 years. And for us to think, and we're so ignorant, that if we just go buy their course, that we go through the course and instantly, like within 2 years, we're going to have like the success of what they've been doing for 18 years. Come on. Yeah. I mean, will that help you like shorten your learning gap? Absolutely. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you're still going to have to be consistent and grind it out because you're not T-Row. You're not Tony Robbins. You're you, right? You have your own journey. Of course, you can leverage and stand on the shoulders of giants to get there quicker. But at the end of the day, it's your story. So I would say you have to be consistent. And you just have to be test.
I love this, actually. You know, it's something that Nick Reese mentioned in a recent interview I did with him. And he says everyone is winging it their first time. Even the experts in your field, they were once beginners and they were just starting out. And if you are at this point now, just work on your craft every single day. Do something that matters. You're dedicated and just keep going, you know, because eventually it will catch on and you will get this if you follow a strategy. And you have been doing this well, investing in yourself. I mean, you can talk about this before we end here, but you have actually invested a lot in yourself and working with Nick Unsworth and really doing this because you want to succeed no matter what, you know. So is that kind of how you have designed your lifestyle? Because this show is not only about building your business, it's about designing your life. So.
Yeah, dude, like, you know, I've been doing this for 5 years, and there are days and by the way, still days, I want to pick up my computer and throw it out the window and smash it with a hammer. But I'm like, no, you know, like I'm determined to create this next version of myself. And what's interesting is we always have this next version of ourselves. Like once we get it, like if I look back to 5 years ago, like me living what I live now, having a full-time income, using literally a laptop and an internet connection to create a full-time income. That was my goal 5 years ago. Like if I could just do that, then life would be a dream come true. And now I'm like, okay, the next version of myself, you know, I want to move out to Carmel, California for a few months, then to Romania for a few months, and then maybe Malaysia for a few months.
Yeah,
and
come to Sweden for a few months, you know, who knows?
For a few months, you know? And so that's kind of the next version, you know, me and my girlfriend are working on, and we're working really hard to pull off this year. But dude, like you said, we're always like when we first started, and even today, by the way, we still struggle with something. There's still like some new thing that's kicking our ass that we're trying to overcome and get better at. That way we then can reach back and teach it. And that's why we become the experts, because we're not just learning and regurgitating information. We are literally in the trenches implementing, and then what we teach is not something we read from a book. It's something that we experience, and that's what qualifies us to be the expert, because we walked the journey and we're like, hey guys, we've been through hell, we've been through the swamp, we've crushed the alligators' faces, and here's what you want to look out for. Make sure you walk on this lily pad, and this lily pad, and that's going to get you through the swamp.
Definitely. I mean, and you don't have to be kind of up top to position yourself as an expert. All you have to do is become an expert in the other people you're helping, in their eyes, basically. So they perceive you as the go-to person for this topic. Maybe in your case, it's Twitter. So, I mean, you don't have the most Twitter followers on Twitter, but you are you still know this stuff. We've been talking about this now for almost an hour, and you've been giving my listeners some really great stuff on this topic. So it's like obvious that you know your stuff. But I mean, that's all that matters, you know, and you can do that too if you're listening into this.
Yeah, I always tell people that like all of us have like a prison. Like we're always wanting to go to some new paradise. But what's interesting is that the prison that you and I are in today is always, always, always somebody else's paradise. There's always somebody behind us that's saying, you know what, I want to live whatever Navid's doing right now. I want that. Right.
Yeah.
And so since you're experiencing that and you've already been like where they were at to where you're at, you've already gone through the gap.
Yeah.
You're qualified to reach back and teach those people behind you. And as you are now working from where you're at now to your new version of your new self, once you get there, you're then qualified to reach back and teach those people again. And so that's the beauty. So the expert is those who are just willing to package and position themselves and their journey, whatever that journey is and whatever topic that is, and then reach back and teach those behind them and give them a helping hand up and pull them to that next version of their next selves.
Definitely. I mean, you've been giving my listeners and viewers here some amazing information on Twitter and now some things how you can position yourself as an expert in your field. So where can people find you and what are you working on right now?
Yeah, they can go on over to ajamix.com, and there's a three-part series where it teaches, or a three-part video series that teaches you how to launch and monetize an online business in 90 days or less. So they can go ahead and get that free training over at ajamix.com, or just connect with me on Twitter. It's just twitter.com/ajamix. I made it, everything's real simple.
Definitely.
And what I'm working on right now, man, is I have this new webinar coming out on June 17th. It's called Tweet for Profits. And I'm super stoked to frickin' rock people. We already have 70
I'm not sure if, hopefully this might be live when this goes live, but I'm sure you will do some additional trainings. You have your course coming up. So, I mean, I'll link everything up in the show notes page over at navid.me/29. And I will actually put together this action guide on Twitter. We went through here, all this kind of steps. So you can download this for free over at my site there. So, I mean, this was a lot of information. Do you have any final words to my audience? Maybe some things to really keep in mind what they should do today?
Yeah, the only thing that I always tell people is like understand that like you are worth it and buy into the idea that you are worth it. Like you are put here on this earth. Your divine calling is to liberate people. You have literally been called to liberate people. Now, you don't have to liberate like all of humanity. Your calling may be to liberate your spouse or your mom or your dad or your grandmother, your uncle or your brother or sister. But maybe you've been called to liberate some marketplace. And we either can choose to accept it, embrace that calling, and choose to use platforms like Twitter or Facebook to be able to take a stand and share our message and give people information to help them through that. Or we can choose to ignore it and allow them to be swept into the raging waters of life. It's our choice. Wow. So for those listening right now, my calling or my call to action for you is like, just choose to embrace the voice within you that's saying, go. Like you will never be ready and it will never be comfortable. Just go. And be willing to step through the threshold so you can be more and do more.
Amazing final words. Basically, just act before you're ready. Take massive action and just do it. So thanks so much, AJ, for coming on my show, sharing some amazing information here. Thanks so much.
Yeah, dude, thanks for having me. It's been fun. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Lifestyle Architects Show.
For more information and to learn more about Navid's journey and how to start your own,
please visit navid.me.